There were so many things that when I first started homeschooling that I did not know about. Everyone, it's Holly. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you joined me today. Today I am talking about traditional homeschool and kind of verging into a topic about homeschool versus schooling at home, to kind of share my ideas and thoughts on that. What I'm doing is jumping into a subject that is like a homeschooling 101 topic. There were so many things that when I first started homeschooling that I did not know about. I began to learn things, watch videos, and there was this language, this lingo that was foreign to me. And so I had to learn what all these methodologies were, philosophies were, ways of homeschooling were, and to kind of see if they were things that I wanted to incorporate into my homeschool, to see if they would work or not. And it's just great knowing what these different things mean as we continue to homeschool, to see how they may or may not work for my homeschool. And I want to bring that information that I've learned to you in this series, which I guess I'll call Homeschool 101, What Is? And we're going to kind of go through a lot of the things I've been learning in the upcoming videos. But today's video, as I mentioned, is what is traditional homeschooling. And I'm going to try to keep these videos as short as possible to share my thoughts and my opinions as far as what I've learned in defining these subjects and topics for you. So traditional homeschooling, let's dive right into that. When someone is homeschooling in a traditional way, it is them homeschooling in a way that parallels or looks very similar to regular school, like public school. So you may set up your classroom and have a desk and kind of have that classroom aesthetic going on, an environment for learning wherever that is in your home. It's going to mimic that classroom that we probably all were accustomed to if we were public schooled. That's what you want to think about when you think about traditional homeschooling. You also want to think about curriculum. Curriculum that is used is basically going to cover those subjects that a traditional school, public school, or private school in your area would cover. You're going to have those basics: math, science, history, English, grammar, literature, writing type of courses. So versus being something that's more individualized for a student that, or interest based for your student, it's going to cover certain standards or aim to try to meet certain standards that the schools in your area are already requiring, or just that the state that you live in requires for you to meet. That kind of brings me to the subject of accreditation. It may be curriculum that is used in schools that are accredited. Accredited is another one of those terms that kind of popped up when I started researching and learning a lot about homeschooling. And so we'll visit that another time as well and discuss what exactly that means, how important it is. But back for today's video on traditional homeschooling, let's talk a little bit about homeschooling versus schooling at home. Because I feel like there's a little bit of controversy when people start talking about that sometime. In my opinion, just to kind of set the record straight as far as what I believe between the two, I believe that they both are ways of traditional homeschooling. And I also believe that any opportunity that you have as a parent to have your child at home learning in a safe and positive environment is a beautiful thing. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Whether or not you choose a traditional homeschooling or a traditional schooling at home approach, I think that they both can be very good. I think they both have their pros to them as far as your involvement in your child's education and being present and having them around the home through their educational years. Okay, so let's look at these two subjects real quick, because there's just a few things and a little bit that kind of sets them apart, really. Otherwise, they're practically the same thing, which is a traditional homeschooling method, as I mentioned. Okay, let's look at curriculum real quick. When you're homeschooling, As a parent, you're going to go out, you're going to do your research, you're going to find out what kind of curriculum works best for you. You're probably going to find a curriculum that has a traditional approach, a curriculum that's pre-written for you, something that's already laid out and covers all the different subjects. This could be a box curriculum that has everything included, or you can piecemeal it together from a different types of vendors that offer different subjects, but you're still going to cover those core subjects. When you're doing schooling at home, it's likely that you are following a curriculum that someone else has chosen for you. But you did have a say in who was actually making that choice for you. So, for example, you may decide to do online school for your child where they're doing live virtual learning, and you have done research and you selected the school to meet what your family values are, what you believe that you feel is going to be a good fit for your child, and you get them signed up and they're doing their lessons and everything online. However, you did not select that curriculum. That school selected that curriculum for your child. When you get into schooling at home, you start getting into some things that you're kind of losing some control to, or passing the baton on, or delegating out to someone else per se. But you may not be able to make every decision in that process. For example, when you're doing a traditional homeschool, you would have control over the time of day that you're doing that school, how long you're going to be doing that school, in addition to, as I mentioned, selecting the curriculum that you want to use per subject or the subjects in general. And likely they're going to be apples and apples, whether you're doing your own homeschool curriculum that you've selected versus the schooling at home. You're probably still going to be following that traditional trajectory of subjects that are typically expected or that you would see even in a public school or charter school system. Another thing that I mentioned was about the online education. Homeschool parent can outsource different subjects to on-demand learning or video learning and things like that. They are still in control of that curriculum that they've selected for that on-demand school versus the schooling at home option. So schooling at home option, you're getting a teacher that is teaching the subject versus typically at home, you are doing most of the teaching yourself unless you decide to outsource a subject. One thing also that I feel like is a difference is when you're doing a traditional homeschool, even though you may be following those subjects, you can still more specifically cater the lesson to your individual child and how they learn versus schooling at home. So schooling at home, it may be a public school that you're doing online. It may be a Christian school that you're doing online. And even when you're doing homeschooling and you're outsourcing things, they may be online, it may be live, it may be virtual, it may be on-demand learning. So there's different types of online learning that's available. But it basically comes back down to I guess the amount of control that you want to have, the amount of input that you want to have. You may be okay just saying, I want my kid to learn at home. I want them to be around home and our influences as they're going through education. And you may select to do schooling at home by going through an online video or an accredited type of school, private or public, where they're just doing at school. It's going to be on their schedule, their lesson plans, their curriculum, their subjects. So everything is going to kind of follow their schedule. You're just going to kind of go along with them and kind of just be there as a roommate or teacher's aide, maybe when your child has questions, and maybe not. Maybe the child goes directly to that online teacher for their help. Versus at homeschool, when it's a little bit more hands-on, you're still following a curriculum that was made for you from the curriculum choices that you made. Once again, you just kind of have more control over the timing and how that information is being delivered to your child, and the timing as far as when that information is being delivered to your child in that subject area, and to kind of cater the education more specifically to them and their learning needs. If they're learning something quicker, you can move them ahead quicker. If they're learning something slower, you can kind of slow the pace down for them in various subjects, even though you're still staying focused on that core basic curriculum that traditional homeschoolers typically like to follow. I think that whether you're schooling at home or doing homeschooling, either one of these traditional approaches to homeschool is really great for you if you like to kind of have order, and you're looking for something that's seamless and easy to kind of take on and to do for your child. There's pros and cons depending on which way of traditional homeschooling you tend to lean to, whether it's more of that schooling at home approach or more of a hands-on homeschooling, parent-led type of education that you're wanting your child to receive. So those are my takes as far as what I want to share with you about traditional homeschooling, learning at home through homeschooling or through schooling at home. Both traditional approaches, both great ways for your child to get an at-home education and to learn at home under the values and influence of the parent. So let me know your thoughts on what I've shared here. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up and like it. That's going to help push my video out to other people that need to know and understand what traditional homeschooling is and what type of approaches are available. And also, I'd love you to join my community. You can do so by smashing the bell. So if you're wanting to learn more of the homeschool lingo, are looking forward to more of my What is Homeschool 101 series, make sure you click that bell so you'll be notified of my next video, and I will see you then.